Hey everybody, welcome back to Pop Culture with Scott and Matt. I'm Matt.
I'm Scott.
Hey Scott. So what are we talking about today? I mean, it's kind of up there and the writings on the wall, but
Such as it is, yeah. Look at me, just moving us around a little bit so we can see all that. So all our viewers and listeners can understand the subject. Yeah, we're going to talk about Run DMC today, one of the trailblazers in hip hop music, but not just Run DMC, because remember, this is about sort of the convergence of popular culture and how consumer products influence popular culture and how popular culture in turn influences consumer products. And this is the phenomenon of Run DMC and Adidas, which started with their love for this particular brand. This is an example, I would argue, of an rare nowadays, but an actual sort of organic emergence of popular culture that was then ultimately adopted by a consumer product company in a way that benefited both the consumer product company and benefited, in this case, Run DMC. So it was the mid '80s. They were emerging as really one of the more influential bands within, or groups within within hip hop, which would sort of evolve from rap. And one of the things that they of their signatures was wearing Adidas, what we would now call Adidas shell toes, and wearing Adidas tracksuits and that sort of thing. So just a really interesting set, just a really interesting time. I remember, you remember, this music emerging and the stories that they were telling.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm glad the tracksuit fad kind of went away. I can't imagine showing up to class wearing a.
Sure.
Well, you know what? Maybe I could rock that stuff.
Yeah,
I
might. Know. It's interesting in and of itself, really. Yeah. And this is a bit of a rabbit hole. We could do a whole podcast on this. Yeah. The Adidas tracksuit. I mean, one of my favorite films, The Royal Tenenbaums. Yeah. The Adidas tracksuit plays a prominent role in one sort of branch of that family, and they all wear them. I mean, it in and of itself is an iconic sort of pop culture uniform, and was certainly adopted by this great hip hop group.
Exactly. And what people don't understand is that prior to Run DMC actually performing and wearing this, most of the hip hop groups didn't want to wear this type of stuff, especially in any kind of videos or things of that nature, because of its association with other things that you're probably going to delve into, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. So the song, sort of the seminal sort of moment for, where Run DMC and Adidas converged is in the song My Adidas, right? My Adidas, where they were singing about all the ways and places that they wear the shoes and why they wear the shoes. And it was, in fact, a response to a movement within their community, which was Queens, New York, where they were where they originated out of sort of I won't call it a parody. I mean, you could probably think of a better sort of term for it, but a song that was created to perhaps not demonize, but at a minimum warn young people that they shouldn't wear things like sneakers without laces, and they shouldn't wear Kangol hats, or they shouldn't wear the heavy sort of gold jewelry, because that's what sort of thugs wore, that's what drug dealers wore. And what the Run DMC song My Adidas did was say, no, it's not that. That's not what we're about. We're about this. And they talked about things like wearing the Adidas with no laces, which is something that happens when one goes to jail. They take your laces away so that you can't use them for a suicide attempt or to harm someone else. So it was this interesting sort of tension, which still exists, right, in a lot of our culture, between what musical genres are trying to communicate and trying to explain and trying to express, and those who see those very expressions as negative things which should not be reinforced and in culture.
Yeah, and Run DMC was really able to transform that into a more positive image, and I think that's part of what endeared them to the youth, the youth of the day, is because they
Indeed.
dressed like them. I mean, prior
Right.
to them really stepping out and going with the Adidas look, they had done, the leather jackets and everything else, and almost even suits. I mean, that's way
Right.
they used to dress in the
Yep.
early days of hip hop.
Right.
The bands
Yeah.
would just have, a dressier image because people were worried about, like, oh, well, they're just going to think they're all, felon shoes or whatever.
Right. Well, exactly right. And so what Run DMC was basically doing is, no, this is a part of who we are. This is a part of our sort of street culture. It's a part of where we came from, if you will, and we want to represent that look and the authenticity of that within our music. And that's where that song really just sort of originated from and spoke to their their origins, where they had come from. The really interesting thing is, of course, that this occurred over time, and in their shows and in their concerts, they would do a song, and they would tell people to hold up their shoes, and they would take their shoes off, put them on their hands, and hold them up. And it was in that moment that one of the folks on their represented their record label invited a U.S.-based Adidas, which was a European company, German company, to the show to see them perform that song. And as I mentioned in class, at the end of that song, that representative from Adidas was at a really critical inflection point. May not have known it at the time, but could do one of two things. Could either decide to, after having seen this amazing scene and this song done by these authentic guys who were really trailblazing in this genre of music, and seeing the way the audience responded and seeing them holding up their Adidas, could either say, this is not who we are. We're an athletic brand. We are the #1 sneaker in the NBA. We are all about performance. We're not about entertainment. We're certainly not about sort of cultural expressions. We need to run from this. Or he could say, there is a group of underserved people, consumers, who have embraced our shoe for their own reasons, and we need to embrace them. And so, as the story goes, what he did is went back to Germany, to the Dassler family, and said, look, this is going on, and we need to embrace this. And as as for such things are legends made, right? I mean, it's a fascinating time.
Well, what people don't realize is around this time is when Nike had actually stolen away from Adidas, or Adidas. I'm going to go Adidas.
Sure.
Right? That's a Midwesterner in me. Had stolen away this young man to be a representative for their shoe company named Michael Jordan.
Right.
Right. So
right
Adidas was like sitting there going, oh crap, because Air Jordans had just came out. I mean,
right.
Things were, and then you have this band sitting there in their music videos and everything else, wearing your tracksuits, wearing your shoes. It's kind of hard not to mistake the 3 stripes.
Right. Right.
It's as iconic as a swoosh.
Right. And at the time, much more iconic. I mean, the hiring of Michael Jordan was for the specific purpose of growing the Nike brand. And Jordan had played in Adidas and was a fan of Adidas. And it's a fascinating sort of rabbit hole to go down, where Sonny Vaccaro, who had been an Adidas promoter, was hired by Nike for the purpose of recommending which athletes, plural, they should endorse. And coming out of college, and he said, don't pick 5 guys and give them $100,000. Pick 1 guy and give him $500,000, and that should be Michael Jordan. So that whole thing pushed them in that direction. And so, without even knowing it, at the time, but recognizing it when it came, which is one of the important lessons from a consumer product standpoint, is you might not be able to create, nor perhaps should you create the groundswell, but you need to be able to recognize it. And one of the things, Matt, that I mentioned in this class was, in my own personal experience, missing one of these moments, and a very specific time in the life of the Coca-Cola company where there was a moment that occurred much later, and we had the chance to jump in and capitalize and embrace it and increase it exponentially in terms of its impact. But we didn't do it because we were afraid, because it wasn't on brand. And that moment, interestingly, was Diet Coke and Mentos.
Oh, really?
Which was this, in its own way, maybe the last purely organic, natural thing that just happened in the early years of YouTube, and everybody was doing it. And the Diet Coke brand ran away from it because it was not on strategy, and missed a lot of opportunity to ingratiate itself and connect and build a bridge to a younger generation for whom Diet Coke was irrelevant, and has in large measure stayed irrelevant as those people have gotten older. So another podcast subject really for another day.
Taken off.
Right. I mean, another podcast for another day, but I mean, it's a good example of these guys. A lot of things you could argue over the course of their history, Adidas didn't do quite right. But in this moment, they recognized it for what it was, and what it resulted in was the first major sportswear endorsement deal with a hip hop group,
with a non-athletic entity for an athletic product.
Right, and in so many ways, expanded the user base of what was essentially an athletic shoe, and which has been able to sustain itself for 40 years beyond its useful life as an athletic shoe, because it is now a lifestyle shoe, and it is a lifestyle shoe because of the three guys on the screen right now.
I mean, Reverend Run, Daryl McDaniels, and Jam Master Jay, it just wouldn't have worked. Though, I mean, there was one other iconic hip hop artist who wore the Adidas tracksuits. You know who I'm talking about? I'm gonna knock you out. Mama said knock you out. LL Cool J. Yes, because ladies love Cool James, right?
and you could make the case. You could probably make the case, and we could find this somewhere, refute it or reinforce the idea that LL Cool J was a little bit younger than these guys, and probably was very influenced by Run DMC and their look, which he sort of took and created a version of for himself. So,
well, and you know what ended up happening, right? A bunch of these hip hop artists started writing songs gearing towards trying to get sponsorships.
Right, sure.
I mean, from Nike. LL did one for I forgot what name it was, like Bally's or something, or Bally or
Bally shoes,
which is name checked in a negative way in my Adidas.
Right. Yes.
It created this whole like almost reaching for like what could be possible.
Right. And created that's one of the points I made in class, is that it creates this immediate sort of the one thing that consumer products companies and marketers do really well is copy, right? And a lot of them then went off and began to create these deals with record companies, with artists, to have their products mentioned and or mentioned in the music and or shown in the music videos. So
but it still happens today.
Oh, sure. Product placement is a thing, and it has been way before this even. But the beauty of this one, at least to me, is there was this and maybe this is the last moment, I don't know, this moment of sort of still, maybe not the right word choice, innocent, naive, organic, authentic, just because it was who they are. And it became a thing, and then became a big consumer product opportunity, right? I mean, in this day and age, that's what marketers are looking for, is that thing which is still pure and authentic. And does it even exist? Can it exist anymore? Or is much of this stuff just sort of fabricated, manufactured?
I would argue that because of Run DMC and their music, if you're not familiar, I'm going to post a link to my Adidas, and I'll post a link to Felon Sneakers in the comments. but their music was not, it wasn't abrasive. It wasn't,
No.
I mean, it had powerful, but mainly positive messages.
Yeah.
Now, if this would have been NWA name checking Adidas, I don't think it would have happened.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah.
Like they fit the brand. They were and they still are clean cut, not clean cut, but like
Sure.
viewed in a positive light.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
They never went off and did an F the police song or anything
Right.
like that.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Right.
And really, I mean, I just remember seeing everybody taking their shoelaces off. And I'm just saying, man, my shoes would be falling off, but that's just me. I'm a practical type of guy.
Yeah. And
there aren't many tracksuits in South Dakota for some reason, though.
And they were, and they're right. And just, this was one of the more fun ones that we talked about in class. And it's the one that not a lot of our students were aware of, but had the most sort of light bulb moments, right? Because you can see, if you look at the last 30 or 40 years after this,
oh yeah,
how groundbreaking this was, and all of the different consumer product and music sort of tie-ins that resulted from this, and the beauty of the Run DMC Adidas story is that shell toe Adidas, or we used to call them Adidas Superstars, and those are things, still exist now.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it now because of those handful of moments that resulted in that song created by these guys at that time, which essentially sort of solidified an iconic shoe that lots of folks still wear.
Right time, right place, right. I mean, just the cosmos came together and was like,
right. My 27-year-old son, I went to the closet today to pull out my pair of Adidas Superstar shell toes to wear to class, which are probably
the laces off, or are you gonna get the fat laces?
I was gonna. These had laces in them, and I was gonna wear them, which probably would have put a nail in the coffin of this from an iconic standpoint. When I'm wearing them, but I went to get them, and you know what? They weren't there, because my 27-year-old son, who I texted when I was leaving the house, said, "Yeah, I snuck those out of your closet at Christmas when I was home. Those things are cool, right?" So I mean, these things have a life of their own because of these moments in pop culture history.
Yeah, but that, I mean, and they've created a few shoe designs based on what DMC wanted, which was, I mean, again, and even when that fell out of favor, another country went, oh, the UK was like, oh, they got really into them, and it had another resurgence, and it just, and now, I mean, we can go on and on with like how Adidas has tried to remain relevant within pop culture.
Yep.
And this is the best example. So
I think so too. So on my way home today, I'm going to listen to my Adidas and maybe go online and get another pair, since my son stole mine.
Maybe I'll throw on Raising Hell on the old turntable when I get home,
Very nice.
The greatest thing that Run DMC ever let me know is whose house it really is.
And whose house is it?
It's Run's house, man.
It's Run's house.
It's Run's
exactly
house.
Right. It's Run's house.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really, it's stuff like this that people don't understand. I mean, they took the B-boy style and somehow capitalized off of it.
Yeah.
And that's just simply amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And a super fun one. And marketers have been chasing that pure, authentic, organic idea ever since.
Well, that's the hard part. It's really hard to make an authentic, organic thing when you're trying to chase it.
Right.
It just have to. Same thing with the throwback jerseys.
Right. You just have to be doing the right thing and hope people notice.
Pay attention and go, oh wait, I can make money off this.
That's right. And be ready, and be ready when the moment's there. Recognize it and be ready. Cool.
I wonder if the Hanes has decided to like sponsor Billie Eilish yet, because she was wearing baggy sweatshirts for a while. I'm just saying, throwing it out there, Hanes.
There it is.
Check mark.
It is.
All right. Later.
All right, man. See you. Bye-bye.